Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an unhinged Karen shop owner slaps an EMT for parking in front of her shop, claiming that he is destroying her business. She ends up in court and deeply regrets it. Here is what happened, let's dive right into the video. So I work as an EMT and there are usually either 2 or 3 people in an ambulance. A driver, somebody to take care of the patient, and ideally a second person to help take care of the patient. On this day, it was me driving with 2 others riding for a call about an older woman who was having a suspected heart attack. We went to the address and it turned out to be a small shopping outlet mall with a bunch of small mom and pop type shops. Here in South Africa, the rules for parking are really simple when it comes to my job. We can park anywhere we want if it is needed in order to help the patient. If that means blocking an entire road, being in a person's driveway, or even parking off the actual road, we will do it. Those are all the things I have done, by the way. The issue was taking place at some kind of ceramics store, but the store I want to mention was the one next door. It was a place selling something like essential oils and power crystals and such things, with claims all over the windows claiming they could do things like cure cancer. I was not window shopping, I had just seen it before. Anyway, the owner of this store, I will name her Karen, came running out, and I assumed at first it was because she had some info about the old woman. My colleagues were in the other store assessing her and getting her on a stretcher. Karen was banging on the ambulance door until I opened it and stepped out to talk to her. Me, ma'am, if you have information about the patient, please go and alert the 2 paramedics helping her. Karen, I don't care about any stupid patient. You are parked in front of my shop and I want you to move right now. Me, there's an emergency. I'm parked where I need to be. Now please move and let us do our jobs. Karen, people cannot see my store if you block it. I pay good money for this location and now nobody can see what I'm selling. Plus nobody's gonna walk in when they see a bunch of flashing lights and noise. It ruins the calming ambience of my shop. Go park on the other side of the mall instead. She took a step towards me and stepped in front of my door, stopping me from getting back inside to drive. Me, you need to move right now. This patient is loaded up and needs to go to the hospital now. Karen, you cannot speak to me this way. Do you have any idea who my husband is? He works for the police and can have you fired and your little ambulance towed for being parked illegally. Then she slapped me across the face before I even knew what was happening. She was the kind of woman to wear a bunch of rings, so my face got kind of cut up from that. So usually when an ambulance is called, the police are not far behind, just as a kind of policy or precaution type of thing. And well, they arrived to see the argument, and as soon as she slapped me, one of them pulled out a taser on her. She was on the ground and I saw my opportunity to get back in and start driving. What I didn't know was I was not gonna hear the end of this, and instead it was going to turn into a huge court case. Now, Karen went crying to her husband, claiming that I was trying to attack her after almost driving right through the front door of her business. She wanted me fired from my job and also arrested for assault. Additionally, she wanted me to pay her thousands of dollars she claims she lost due to the ambulance driving her business away. Having a job like mine meant that I was able to have a very good lawyer who did not shy away from digging deep into her. He warned me it could be a long battle, but I did not mind because she needed to get taught some respect. The first thing he did was start going after her business and the many reports that people had filed against her. Ranging from her charging more than advertised all the way to saying her claims were illegal. She was scamming people for sure, but we had to find the legal loopholes to really get her in trouble for it. That was where these window advertisements came in, especially about the ones curing cancer. Here you are not allowed to make a claim like that without any scientific evidence to back it up. She of course only had articles written by other scammers trying to sell their products. Or people writing stories online about how they had cancer and using things like oils and crystals helped them feel better. None of this was evidence and she was about to get her entire business destroyed due to that lying. This could cost her a ton of money, but she did not even seem to care. She was convinced that because her husband was a member of the police force, it meant he could protect her from these things. While her business being a pile of fraud might have only gotten her in serious economic problems, it was nothing compared to what we hit her with next. Remember that we arrived that day in order to help an old woman who might have been having a heart attack. Well, she indeed was having a heart attack, and based on video evidence and police testimony, we were delayed for a full 7 minutes, leaving and getting her to the hospital too late. That woman sustained medical issues that doctors claimed would not have occurred if she had gotten to the hospital on time. She was being held responsible responsible for this woman having a worse health outcome than she would have had otherwise. This was gonna get her sent to prison because do you wanna guess what the health issue was? The woman died after getting to the hospital and the doctors being just slightly too late to save her life. The death was on Karen and she didn't care at all that a person died because she threw a tantrum in the middle of the street, stopping us. For this, Karen was being sent to prison for obstructing us from getting the woman help in a timely manner. She was also arrested for assault when she slapped me right in front of the police. At this point, there was nothing her husband could do to defend her even if he wanted to. Speaking of which, he didn't even seem that keen to try and defend her actions because he knew that she had screwed up beyond belief. He might have been able to keep enough people scared from filing reports against Karen, or even for Karen to keep scamming people with her shop. However, he would have needed the power of a dictator in order to save Karen after what she had done to us that day. I don't want to say that was the craziest call I've responded to as an EMT, because I doubt that it was. Plus, I know saying it will jinx me into having something even worse happen tomorrow. I can say that it was a first for me to get slapped by some random lady for parking my ambulance where she didn't like it. Next time somebody blocks me from doing my job, I'm not gonna hesitate to take matters into my own hands and just move the person myself. Edit. Some people in the comments were confused as to what happened to Karen, so just to reiterate, Karen found herself a new home. To be more precise, it's a cozy prison cell for the next 10 years of her life. The charges against her were that serious. So next time, boys, remember, don't block EMTs from doing their jobs. And the next one is titled, Cut My Hours and Get Revenged On. I used to work in loss prevention for a regional chain of electronic stores. Let's call it Crap Store. My job was basically to patrol the store in plain clothes and detain someone if I caught them trying to steal. I've worked private security before, so this was a pretty nice gig. Crap Store's corporate policy, for reasons I cannot quite comprehend, mandated a weekly quota of shoplifter apprehensions, which we called stops. We needed to have at least 3 stops a week. Usually we had about 10, just shy of 2 per day, and obviously most of the stops involved expensive electronics. We paid our own salaries many times over and saved the company an astronomical amount of money. Until one week. Saturday rolled around, our scheduled weeks ran Sunday to Saturday, and all loss prevention personnel were called into the office. There were 4 of us. The store manager told us that only 2 stops had been made for the week, so we had not met our quota. He contacted corporate and they told him to give all loss prevention personnel the entire next week off to save on costs. An extra cashier would be scheduled to stand by the door as a deterrent. I later learned that other stores were implementing this policy in order to phase out plainclothes LP altogether. As you can imagine, a week of no pay didn't exactly go over well with us. It was particularly bad timing for me. My rent was due and my dog had some vet bills and my nephew's birthday was coming up. So I and all of my coworkers did everything to fight this. We talked about how we usually met our quota many times over, how we paid our own salaries with all the stops we did and how much money we had saved the company, how laughably ineffective an untrained cashier standing by the door would be, but it all fell on deaf ears. By the end of it, the manager was clearly flustered but insisted that we just stay home the next week. Think of it like a vacation, he said. We all had paid time off available, but of course he had said that we couldn't use it. It's about cutting losses for the company, he said. Cutting losses? Oh dear, if only he knew the crap I was about to pull. We all went home feeling pissed and wronged, but before I even set foot in my door, I had the vague beginnings of a plan for vengeance. So now onto my revenge plan. I had a few friends, or I guess acquaintances, who were a bit shady. They were generally straight-laced, but they themselves had friends who were even shadier. Dealers, addicts, and even a few gang members if the rumors were true. They usually hung out in one of the 3 parks in the city limits, so after blowing off some steam at home, I began to make my rounds. The conversation with each group followed a pretty set pattern. I would say hi, but look a little pissed, and they would ask how I was doing. I would say something like, not too good I guess, the crap store just gave the entire loss prevention team the week off to save money, I'm gonna miss out on an entire paycheck. A few would probe a bit and I would verify that yes, anyone could walk into the store and take stuff without having to worry about an undercover LP watching them. I knew that my plan was beginning to take hold when someone I had not talked to posted on Facebook asking if it was true that Crap Store had no loss prevention this week. Seriously, word gets around fast. All I had to do now was head to the store, grab a 30 packet of beer and slowly drink the week away while crap went down. People lost their minds. A crap load of product went missing every day, and not just little things. People were apparently just walking out with giant flat screen TVs and refusing to stop for the lowly cashier by the door. Which, by the way, usually wasn't paying attention anyway. Tablets, laptops, netbooks and consoles vanished into thin air. Several cell phones from the display case even went missing. I would not hear about this until later though. All I know is that on Wednesday, hardly halfway through my unpaid week off, I got a call from work. I let it go to voicemail and couldn't help but crack a smile when I listened to it. It was the store manager asking me to come in and work a full shift because of problems they'd been having. You could almost hear the desperation in his voice. I knew my little scheme had worked, but sadly, I chose not to respond or come in for work that day. Even if I wanted to, I was pretty deep into a six-pack at the time. I got another call the following day, which this time I answered. Jeez, boss, I'm so sorry, but I'm actually 8 hours away at the beach right now. I thought going out of town would be a good idea since you said to treat this like a vacation. Actually, I was still in my PJs drinking coffee and watching Breaking Bad. The following day, I didn't get a phone call. Crap Store had used LP personnel in from other stores and had a police officer stand by the door. I'm sure the police department was happy to oblige. I can only imagine how many calls they got from this store over the past week. When I went back after my week off was up, there were 2 new policies that were tacked right onto the bulletin board. So at least one LP associate must be on the floor from open to close, and the quota was changed from XYZ number of stops per week to amount of money saved in a month. A much more flexible and reasonable quota that the 4 of us would have no problem meeting. Well, 3 of us actually. One of my fellow LPs made use of their week off by getting a new job, and good for them. I never did learn the hard numbers on how much money hemorrhaged out of that store. I do know that it was in the 6-figure range. I thought about getting a new job myself, but it didn't prove to be necessary. I guess a company that cuts all LPs for a week must have deeper financial problems because the whole chain folded 2 months later. I then got to spend my days drinking beer, watching Netflix and getting paid unemployment for it. I ended up landing a new job with a private security firm that paid much better. I ran into my shadier acquaintances showing off their new iPads a few days after this mess. I think I know how they got them. And honestly, maybe I'm the only one here, but I feel it is so weird that if you have security personnel like OP, that they must meet a weekly quota of basically catching people stealing stuff. Shouldn't you be happy if less people try to steal stuff from your store? Maybe I'm missing something here. Anyway, the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. So me, 27 male, and my sister, Ava, 31 female, have never gotten along for a number of reasons. I was adopted at age 8 and she still only addresses our parents as her parents, and she calls me a family friend, not her brother, especially when introducing me to people. I was overweight for most of my childhood and she used to bully me over it a lot. I have a stereotypically girl name. I was named after my birth mom. For the sake of this post, think Kelly or Anna. Something boring and basic but unmistakably girly, and she continues to this day to bully me over it. She outed me as gay to our entire high school in the school papers. She says I ruined her life because I encouraged her parents to foster our other 2 siblings. She once locked me out of our house for 3 days while my parents were out of town. I was 13 and had to stay at the neighbor's house because she would not open the door even when my parents called and told her to. There are many more examples for her being awful, but these ones came to my mind first. So last week, Ava called me, my siblings and my parents and asked us to come over for lunch. Me and my siblings had to stop and pick up food on the way over to her house. She won't cook for us, only for our parents, so we drove together. When we got there, our parents were already there and in the kitchen crying. I asked what happened and Ava told us that she had cancer and she wanted our support. I said, I'm sorry about that, because I really didn't know what else to say. Ava and my parents got upset and we all basically got into a screaming match. I told her that she really shouldn't be surprised that karma finally found her. Ava asked what I meant and I told her that bad things happen to bad people. She started sobbing and I walked right out the front door. My parents have been calling me to say that I was an a-hole and my siblings are mad that I drove away without them, but they agree that Ava is awful. I'm starting to feel kind of bad because I know how horrible cancer is and I know that no one deserves to go through that. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would love to hear your input on this situation. Do you think that OP is the a-hole or not? And comment number 1 said, Everyone sucks here, your sister sucks for the horrible way she has treated you for years, and your parents suck for not stopping her behavior. But also, you suck for thinking that cancer is a punishment that bad people get. I lost a very good friend to cancer almost 2 years ago. She was a lovely woman and did nothing to deserve cancer. I imagine most people who have cancer have not done anything that would warrant that horrible disease. Comment number 2, everyone sucks here, so her for obvious reasons, but you for implying that cancer hits only bad people. Also, bad things happen to everyone, not just bad people. Comment number 3, everyone's argument seems to be that he said people with cancer are bad people, but he didn't say that. He said bad things happen to bad people, not specifically cancer, he was talking about karma in general. She has tormented him and the rest of the siblings all their life, they could have become suicidal from all the bullying. Their lives were hard and then she expects support? What for? Why would he or any of the siblings support her in any way? Rubbing karma in her face was not ideal, but he is a damn human being. He has been tormented all his life by her, give him a break. He did not owe her anything and still doesn't. All of you have never been bullied clearly or know the effects of it. Cancer did not change her, she didn't magically become a nice person, but now she expects to invite the victims she's been bullying, and not only her but all of you a-holes demand him to support her or to be considerate. F that, not the a-hole. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Rich Karen ran a red light and totaled my car. She wants to sue me and called the cops on me. Everybody knows what a pain it can be when you are involved in some kind of car accident, no matter how minor. This for me though might have been the strangest one I have ever personally heard of. A tiny bit of backstory is that I am a farmer and I was on my weekly trip into the closest big town where I have some people that use me as a supplier for milk and eggs and such. The thing is that in this town there are a lot of rich, snobby, entitled people. I find it ironically funny that the same rich snobs that want all their stuff to be organic and farm fresh are the same people that seem to think the worst of farmers. Like, where do you think this stuff is coming from? Stupidity aside for just a moment, I was having a normal day and doing my runs. I was going straight in an intersection where I had a green light. A car from the other direction that would have had a red light came towards me and we collided. It was not anything serious and nobody was hurt, but you can imagine I was pretty angry. My truck held up better than the rich woman's Mercedes, but she came out of her car and towards me, screaming like a lunatic. Karen, what the hell do you think you are doing, crashing into me like that, you dirty farmer? I guess people like you only know how to drive a tractor. Me? Hey, watch it. You ran a red light and smashed right into my truck. Now you're going to insult me on top of everything? Karen, oh, your beat-up truck is fine. It looked like a piece of crap before, and it looks like one now. Look at my precious car. I know that you're probably too dumb to know what a Mercedes is, but let me tell you something, buddy. It is expensive, and I'm gonna make sure that you pay for every penny of damage. Me? I'm not gonna pay anything since you were the one that ran a light. The police are on their way, and they will find out exactly what happened. Karen, oh please, who do you think they are going to believe when they get here? You're a dirty dumb farmer and I'm a respectable member of society. My kid is in the car and who knows what kind of psychological damage you caused him. You would be lucky if I only got money for the car, because I could get you locked up in jail. You are probably just a no-good drunk that is going to end up in jail for a DUI. I was done trying to talk to this entitled Karen and was just going to wait for the police. I was not worried because I was in the right and she smashed into me. I also noticed while she was screaming that she had the smell of alcohol on her breath. She also had the very distinct smell of weed, so I was not going to try and argue with someone who was both entitled and possibly drunk. I waited for the police while she continued to scream to nobody about how I rammed into her and I was driving drunk because I was a farmer. I could not have been happier when the police arrived, if only for the fact it could be over soon. Officer number 1. Sir, this woman is claiming that you went through a red light and smashed into her vehicle. Then you got out of the truck and verbally harassed her where she claimed she smelled alcohol on your breath. Me, none of that is true. I give him my statement, including the fact that she smells like alcohol and weed. I would like to point out that where I was living, having weed is not legal and driving under its influence like everywhere is definitely not legal. They are trying to put all of the pieces together when some random lady that I did not even know was around came running over to the cars to speak to the officers. I was scared that it was her friend or something coming to try and back her up that I ran a red light. It turns out though that she was driving right behind Karen and caught the entire thing on her dash cam. She showed it to the police, who told me that I was no longer under suspicion but would like me to stick around so they can get her insurance info to fix my truck. As you can imagine, Karen was not happy being told that she was in the wrong and started talking back to the officers who were now writing her a ticket. They smelled the alcohol on her breath too, and after a small wait they got a warrant to search her car. They found an open bottle of wine on the floor of the passenger seat, as well as a bag of weed in the glove box and a joint in the cup holder. She was arrested and the entire time screaming about how she was going to sue me and then sue the police for arresting her. Still talking about her son going to be mentally scarred for life because of this, and it was all going to come out of my pocket. Bringing that up, I actually decided I was going to stay at the scene for a while with the police because of the fact that with the mom being arrested, there was just a kid still hanging out in the car. This kid was probably around 8 or 9 years old and understandably a little shaken up. His mom, of course, during all the yelling and threatening, did not once check on her son or comfort him in any way. I asked the police what was going to happen to him because the accident was cleared and I was told to go home at that point. They explained that his mother and father were divorced and there were a number of police visits before it was finalized. They obviously could not give me any specific details, but they did tell me that she managed to get full custody and keep the boy from his father. That might have been the end of the story, but there was one thing that happened a few weeks later that is the only good part of the story. One day, the boy came to visit the farm with his father, who told me that the boy kept saying he really needed to speak to me. The father seemed much nicer than the mother, and I was now curious what the boy wanted to say to me so badly. It turns out that he was smart enough to know that his mother was wrong and really wanted to tell me that he was sorry that he did not say anything to the police about it being her fault because he was scared. He then told me that he heard the mean things she said about farmers and that he knew that they were not true because farmers were important. It was the first time I really felt like the people living in the town were not all entitled Karens, and maybe this kid being raised by his dad meant that there was hope for him to turn out okay too. I never saw them again after that final thing, but when I drive down that intersection I always think about what happened there. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess when you drive a car under the influence of drugs and alcohol and then crash someone when running a red light, the smartest thing might not be to try and sound like you are in the right, but instead maybe admit what you have done and not come off like a total douchebag like Karen did. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.